Hey, Rockets, it's Mrs. Wilkenbush. I hope you're doing well. Hey, we're on the home stretch again for our last, I'm going to do 2 chapters today from Masterminds by Gordon Korman. So the first chapter, chapter 25, our author is Tori Priddle. Let's get started. By the time my body hits the shoulder, the speeding truck is already 30 feet past. The impact is bone-splitting. I try to see what's happening with the others, but I'm already rolling, and the whole world is a blur. I hear someone screaming, and I'm pretty sure it's me. Through the whirling kaleidoscope of dark land and sky, I catch a glimpse of the yawning valley growing closer. If I go over the side, I'm dead for sure. Desperately, I reach out to grab something, anything to stop my momentum. My fingers dig into the dirt and dry grass, but it all comes away into my hands. Try harder, I extort myself. It's a long way down. My arms clamp around a prickly bush. Thorns pierce into my skin, but I hang on through the barrage of pain. Who knew that life is so precious? Who knew? When I finally stop moving, I only have a split second to celebrate my narrow escape. A half a mile ahead, the cone truck smashes through the white fence post and hurtles over the edge. My breath catches in my throat as I hear it tumbling all the way down. I see the fireball slightly before I hear the noise of the explosion, and I can't help but think of Amber's mom, who taught us how light travels faster than sound. The others, I think with a gasp of horror. I jumped. Did anybody else? If they didn't, there's no way they could have survived. The pain and nausea of the barrier are gone now. We were right. It was the dish on the truck. It's a small comfort in my present situation. I struggle up, which is no small thing when you're broken to pieces. There might be a couple of tiny hair follicles that don't hurt. Everything else is killing me. Tears are running down my face, not only for the fate of my poor friends, but also for myself. Because what if I'm alone out there? Amber, I call. Eli, Malik, Hector. My voice is raw and thin as tracing paper. No one can hear me. The sound probably doesn't carry more than a few feet. I limp along the road, enduring a symphony of pain. I was the first to jump. If anybody else made it too, that's where they'll be. It isn't far, but my ankle is on fire. I must have sprained it when I hit the ground. Out of the corner of my eye, I catch a hint of movement, and my heart leaps. Amber! But it isn't Amber. It isn't anybody. Distant lights from the direction of Serenity, cars coming to investigate the big explosion. Purple people eaters, or worse, our parents. Parents! Suddenly, I feel the need to wrap my bruised body in Dad's embrace. He'll forgive me and tell me everything's fine. The picture is so achingly tempting it nearly tears me into two. The nightmare can soon be over. He'll be here in just a few minutes. All I have to do is wait. For sure he's in the first car. No, I shake my head as hard as I can. It sets off a firestone of pain. But it's worth it to clear my mind. Dad's comfort is a lie. Dad is a lie. Our parents are on the other side, and I can't let them catch me. The thought urges me into action. I scramble for the woods. I'm abandoning my search for the others, but it stands to reason that any survivors will see those same headlights and run for cover too. I pound through the forest, sidestepping the tree trunks and tripping over exposed roots. At the overhead foliage thickens into a canopy. The light of the moon and stars is lost, and I'm stumbling blind as I free the logical part of my brain is screaming, turn around before you knock yourself unconscious and never wake up again, because some rattlesnake or coyote eats you. Then I think about my life as a prisoner and a clone, and the rattlesnakes and the coyotes don't seem that bad. My eyes are just beginning to adjust to the light when the collision comes. I bounce off, the wind knocked out of me. It's so devastating that I posit I've run full tilt into a tree. But trees don't curse, and this one does. Malik, I rasp, grabbing onto him. Don't leave, it's me. Tori? Tori, Amber's voice. We are stopped babbling at the same time until Malik suddenly interrupts. Where's Hector? I don't know. I'm brought up short. I thought I was the only one who made it out until I found you guys. What about Eli? When we jumped, he was still standing on the running board steering, Amber supplies breathlessly. Eli can take care of himself, Malik snaps. We've got to look for the shrimp. I shake my head. We can't. There's a parade of cars coming up from Serenity. We'll find him quick and then get out of here, Malik says stubbornly. We form a search line, fanning out about 10 feet. We don't dare go any further than that for fear of losing each other. We haven't made much progress when a faint voice echoes through the woods. We practically have to tackle Malik to keep him from running off on his own. I call, over here, but I'm incapable of much sound. Not Malik, though. He has no problem mustering top volume when struggling to break free of our grip. Hector! There's a rustling in the brush, and a figure joins us in the gloom. It's me, says Eli. Eli! I thought I'd never see him again. We're all here except Hector, I quaver. There's a tremor in his voice. I don't know about Hector. I begged him to jump, but I think he was too scared. I don't know if he got off the truck in time. His words are quiet, but their impact is greater than the shockwave that came with the fireball. We've obviously always understood that our plan was dangerous, and that not all of us might survive. Now we have to deal with the fact that it might have already happened, that Hector went over with the side of the truck. We knew there would be a price for our freedom, but we never expected Hector to pay for it. Hector to pay for the rest of us. Stupid Hector, Malik's chest began to heave. Leave it to him to rip so bad. He couldn't manage one little thing to save his worthless life. How hard is it to fall off a truck you barely hang on to in the first place? He did his best, Malik, I offered gently. He just froze. He must have been really terrified. He's useless, Malik raves. Who did they clone him from? A baboon? And when he really needed me, his voice catches in his throat. I wasn't there. We stand in mute astonishment. Malik, who doesn't care about anything or anybody, is crying. He covers his scratched face with his hands, but the tears drip through his fingers, mingling with dirt and blood. Amber reaches down to place a comforting hand on his shoulder, but he shakes it off. A loud rhythmic clatter swells off the background. I've been hearing it for a while, but in the chaos of the moment, it doesn't really penetrate my thoughts until the minute. A helicopter, I breathe. Then, purples. Our break for freedom has come to disaster. One of us is probably dead, and now Surety is swooping down to pick us up. Run! Rasped Eli. We take off like a herd of horses deeper into the woods. We haven't gone very far when the engine roar swells directly overhead. The searchlight beam sweeps over the trees not 50 feet away from us, so close that we're sure we must be discovered. But the chopper continues on, coming to hover just beyond the ridge where the road curves. Slowly, it begins to descend into the valley. They didn't see us, I whisper. Eli clues in. The truck's at the bottom of the slope on fire. That's what's drawing their attention. They probably think they're going to find 5 bodies in there. Malik is still emotional. They are going to find 1 body in there. Listen, Malik, Eli says earnestly. Whatever happened to Hector, hanging around here is only to get us caught. And I'm supposed to be the toxic element? Malik spats. At least I'm not stone cold like you. I'll bet they had to go pretty deep into the psych ward to find your DNA. No wonder the ringleader of Sirius picked you to raise. Eli recoils as if he's been slapped, but he doesn't give up on his argument. This is a gift, he persists. That truck is going to burn for a while before they can get close. Before they can get close enough to see that we're not in it. By the time it cools off, for them to investigate, we have to be a long way from here. I guess I was wrong about you, Hector, Malik rests aloud. You're not useless after all. I guess I was wrong about you, Hector, Malik rests aloud. You're not useless after all. You're useful as one thing, a distraction. That's what your whole life was about. Come on, Malik. It won't help Hector if we get dragged back to Serenity. Amber touches his arms. Malik takes a shaky breath. Nothing can help Hector now. Where are we going to go? I wonder, my entire body trembling. I mean, with the car we could head for Taos or some other town, but now we're on foot. We can't walk 80 miles. Not with the purples looking for us. No truck burns that long. Eli's ready with an answer. The train line. That was our plan when we tried to get away on our bikes. There's no reason why we can't put that into action now. If we keep heading south, we know we'll hit the tracks eventually. Yeah, but how eventually? Amber asked. It has to be miles, probably a lot of them. We turned to Malik, who was still mourning. He looks like he couldn't put one foot in front of the other, much less take the marathon backcountry hike in the dark. His grief-stricken features twist into a slight grin. You've got someplace else you need to be? Chapter 26, Malik Brooder. I always thought Serenity was the lamest backwater on the face of the earth. Now I know that compared with what's around Serenity, the town itself is New York or Paris or Tokyo or one of those huge cities you read about. What's around Serenity is basically nothing. I know this because we walk through every lousy inch of it. It's dirt and trees and sagebrush that grabs at your feet and ankles. It's boulders and buttes and crags that have been scrambled over and squeezed between. It's so quiet that the only sound besides your own groaning and cursing is the scampering of lizards or the clicking of scorpions. Poor Hector would probably have wet himself, but come to think of it, he'd be too dehydrated like the rest of us. It would be hard enough to keep going under any circumstances, but after what we've just been through, it's torture in the extreme. We walk all night, blundering through darkness, until the pain of our exhaustion squalls the pain of the cuts and bruises that cover 99% of our bodies. I'd probably be carrying Hector by now. Under the circumstances, I'd be happy to. He doesn't weigh very much. Correction. He didn't. Here's what haunts me. If we didn't have to rush our plan in order to get me out of Happy Valley before weeding day, could we have come up with a better way to do that so that Hector didn't get killed? If I didn't cheat on tests or gorge myself on cookies and cupcakes and get myself classified as toxic, if I wasn't such a big jerk, would Hector still be alive? That's a lot more weight to carry than one skinny kid. The girls are tougher than I thought. I figured they'd be flat on their faces at this point. But they're hanging in there. I guess that's when your only chance to have a real life. You keep putting one foot in front of the other, regardless of how much it hurts. That goes double when you're the one with a full weeding alert. I don't feel very lucky, but I understand I am. If we didn't get out when we did, who knows what would have happened to me? I don't know how far we've come, but we can't see or hear the helicopter anymore. Maybe it landed in the valley, or maybe the purples took it back to the base to wait for first light. I'm hoping that we've walked clear out of its range. I've got blisters on my feet to prove it. Our navigation can be summed up in one word: south. We think we're heading in the right direction, but it's easy to get turned around when you're traveling over rough terrain. It feels like we've been on the move about 6 months, when at least the disk of sun eases the way over the horizon and we're heading straight for it. We're going east, wails Tori. That's the only word of complaint. We make our course correction, but we're too tired for much more grumbling. We're thirsty and we're hungry. When the sun climbs, it begins to pound down on us unmercifully. You know, when they picked a place for the secret clone farm, they really scored, I pant. We've been walking for like 15 hours and we haven't seen a single person. Not even a single house, a road, or a power line. Be grateful, Eli grunts. We could be seeing lots of people in purple suits. I'm sweating like crazy, but that's a sign that so far I'm still okay. I heard once when you stop sweating, that's when you know your dehydration is getting really bad. It's so hot, Tori exclaims. No hotter than Happy Valley, I point out. Yeah, but there you're never far from air conditioning or a pool, Amber complains. I wish I had a pool right now. I'd drink it, chlorine and all. I give our parents credit for one thing, however. They kept us pampered while we were under the microscope. I'll take this over all of their toys and comforts, Eli says through gritted teeth. At least I'm nobody's lab rat. I'm down with that. But a nervous thought has begun to nag me. We haven't seen anything in almost a day. People die from being stranded in places like this without food or water. When do we reach the point where being free is less important than not dying? I know the others are thinking it too, although nobody says it out loud. We're all dragging. Sunburn stings our faces and our backs of our necks. We're not going to get out a second wind without at least water. We pass a couple of dried up ponds, something that might once have been a creek bed, and that's about to get. I guess we picked the wrong time of the year for a hike. There isn't so much as a green weed to chew on for moisture. With the sun still high and blazing, Amber hits the dirt. She doesn't even make a sound. She just wafts to the ground like a slip of paper floating down on the air current. We've got to stop, Tori pleads through cracked lips. Find some shade and lie low until it's not so hot. We can't afford the time, Eli argues. When the purple people eaters come after us, we have to be long gone. Tori's on her knees. Amber, wake up. Amber is annoyed. I am up. I didn't pass out. I tripped. We look down and see that's when we see it. 2 steel rails on a bed of wooden ties, half buried in dust and weeds. The train tracks. We wait forever, but at least we're not walking anymore. I'm pretty sure the track is still in regular use because the top of the rail is shiny. Still, it's a long, nervous vigil. And the thirst? That's with us every second now. It's like living inside of me. A parched sand creature, expanding in size and royally ticked off. I pass the time picturing a bottle of water. Seriously, that's 4 hours of my life doing nothing but that. We notice the vibration first. It's going on for several minutes before we actually hear the train. At last, just as dusk is beginning to settle, the locomotive appears on the horizon, coming out of the west, out of the sunset. Why is it going so slow? Amber wonders. It's a freight train, Eli tells her, and don't complain. We're going to have to jump on it. Well, why can't we just flag it down, I ask. Because then we'd have to explain who we are and what we're doing, Eli reasons. If they start calling around to police stations asking about runaway kids, the purples might find out about it. We retreat from the track and crouch in the brush, sizing up the task ahead of us. One piece of good news, the train is pulling a zillion cars, so we're going to have a very wide selection. We flatten ourselves on the ground at the end as the engine passes. Once those are out of sight, we approach the track and look for a way in. The liquid tankers are sealed. The grain hoppers are only accessible from the top. I point to a flat car stacked with lumber. One of those? Tori shakes her head. No good. The purple people eaters could spot us from the helicopter. And then a boxcar comes lumbering along, its sliding door open wide. We can see some cargo piled high, but there's plenty of room. We look at each other and nod all around. That's the one. The train may be slow, but when it comes to boarding a moving boxcar, slow is a relative term. We're weak, exhausted, dehydrated, thanks to 24 hours wandering in the wilderness. There's a long metal step the length of the door opening. Eli hops onto it, but the motion of the train throws off his precarious balance, and he has to jump down again. Amber gets one wobbly foot on it before tumbling back into the dirt. Tori bypasses the step altogether and hurls herself inside. She makes it, but not without whacking one knee on her way in. Now she's pulling away. The 3 of us are running beside the track to keep up with her. Come on, she wails. I see from where she's coming from. The thought of being the only one aboard must be almost as scary as missing the train. Amber gets there first. Tori reaches out and hauls her aboard. Eli clamps his hand on the side of the doorframe and tries to swing himself inside, but he doesn't have the guts to let go. So he's hanging there at a weird angle, blocking the opening, legs kicking. Get inside, stupid, I pant, running along beside the tracks. I can't. It's like a scene from a comedy. It would probably be hilarious if our whole lives didn't depend on getting in there. I give Eli's dangling butt a gigantic push and he goes flying into the car. My toe strikes the edge of the rail tie and I start to tumble. I know in my heart, if I fall down, I'll never catch up to the others. My stomach twists at the idea of being left behind. At the last second, I manage to right myself, hop, skip, and fling my entire body through the opening. Oof! I hit the floor and roll. I have an awful thought. What if I keep rolling out on the other side of the door? Luckily, though, I smack into a heavy pallet of cargo. Something inside gurgles. I put my fist to the side of the nearest carton and drew out a bottle of blue liquid. I stare at the label. I gawk. Gatorade. For the first time in what seems like forever, I smile and show it to the others. Anybody thirsty? That's it for today, you guys. We have one more chapter to go. I can't wait to see how this is going to end. Predictions? Are they pretty good? Are they close? All right. Until next time.